Hey everybody, this is Mr. Moffat coming at you with an APGOV video. We're taking a look at topic 3.2, focusing in on freedom of speech within the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. On this video, we're taking a look at the free exercise clause with regards to freedom of religion. Now, in the Constitution, it stipulates that Congress cannot prohibit the right of people to freely exercise their faith. Now, of course, the question that is asked is, well, does that mean that you have the ability to practice any kind of faith at any time? Do you have the ability, for example, to engage, say, in human sacrifice because you are an ancient druid and that is part of your traditional faith? Well, the answer to that question is no. Just like any of our other civil liberties, freedom of religion in terms of free exercise is not absolute. And so let's take a look real quick at some things that are going to create limits for what you can do as part of practicing your faith. Generally speaking, the court has ruled that your religious practices cannot violate established law. So, for example, if human sacrifice is part of, if you allege human sacrifice is part of your faith, well, then that's a violation of murder laws that are on the books, and that would not be protected. If your faith, your practice of your faith rather, threatens the legitimate interests of the community, then that is, not going to be protected. So if you are talking about a situation, for example, where, hey, my faith says that we do not believe in, traditional medicine. We believe in faith healing. For any medical needs, and therefore as a parent I'm going to refuse to let my child see a licensed medical doctor and basically just let God solve whatever ailments are affecting my child. Well, that's not protected. The government's going to argue that there's a legitimate community interest in protecting the health and well-being of children, so you cannot use one's faith as an excuse to deny a child medical care. Also, any practice that may violate the rights of others is not going to be protected. So if your faith requires you to kidnap non-believers to force them to convert to your faith, that's going to be a violation of somebody else's rights, and that's not going to be protected under the Constitution as well. Some other examples of things that the court has banned in terms of religious actions under the free exercise clause includes polygamy. Any attempt, the argument is that there's a traditional, legitimate community interest in defining marriages between two people solely. Something else that has not been protected in the Constitution is the use of poisonous snakes. We know that in certain Pentecostal and Baptist denominations, poisonous snakes have been used. The court says that no, there's a legitimate community interest in protecting the health of people in the community, and knowingly having people interact with poisonous snakes is not going to be protected. The use of illicit drugs by the case of Oregon versus Smith is also not protected. This was a case that was focusing in on somebody that was engaging in some traditional Native American religious ceremonies in the Southwest, and that involved the use of peyote, a hallucinogen. When this person's employer drug tested them, this person tested positive for drugs, and when this person was fired, the person that was fired argued that, hey, they were being fired because of failing a drug test, which was part of what they claimed was their legitimate practice of their faith. The court ruled, though, that that is not protected, that there is a legitimate community interest in allowing business owners to determine if their employees are using illicit drugs, and so firing that individual was protected, and it was not seen as an infringement on the free exercise clause. Now, generally speaking, once again, if your faith comes into conflict with pre-existing law, the court's likely not going to protect your practice of your faith. However, there are exceptions. One of those notable exceptions is a required SCOTUS case for this unit, and that is the case of Wisconsin versus Yoder. And this focused in on an Amish family in Wisconsin. Now, the state of Wisconsin stipulated that students were to stay in school, be registered in school up until the age of 16. But the Yoder family, as I said, is an Amish family, and they pulled their children out of school following the 8th grade. The Yoders argued that that in their community, their faith only requires a limited amount of formal education, and that to force them to go to public high school was going to expose them to values that were contradictory to their traditionally held religious values that they held dear. In this case, the court ruled that Wisconsin's compulsory education laws were actually violating the free exercise rights of the Yoder family and other Amish individuals. The court basically stipulated that the Amish are not a typical religious denomination, that their existence in America is so long and so well documented, it actually predates the founding of the United States, and that their beliefs are so sincere and so legitimate as proven over centuries, that the court has said that legitimately to live in an Amish community, you don't really need a formal education beyond 8th grade, given the type of lifestyle that they live, which is a very conservative, very traditional lifestyle that is really much more assimilated to life in the 18th century than at the time of the case, the 20th century. And so for the state of Wisconsin to force that child to go to high school was an infringement on what was a legitimate, traditionally established faith. So note, there can be some exceptions. Now, to kind of round this out, just be aware of some other issues regarding freedom of religion as it pertains to interaction with the government, particularly in schools. With regards to school vouchers, and let's pause real quick here just to make sure we understand what a school voucher is. A school voucher is an allowance within a state to let individuals take money, or families take money that would be normally given by the state to the local school district, and actually give that money as a check to the family to then be able to use that money as the family sees fit to meet the required educational needs of their child. The question, though, is can you constitutionally use that school voucher money and instead of taking it to a different public school, actually apply it to tuition for a private religious school? And the court has, in its rulings, has shown a willingness to accept that, and that the need for someone to get a quality education should not be denied on account of a school's religious affiliation. Some of the things to keep in mind regarding school and prayer with regards to any kind of Establishment Clause issues. For example, any type of school-led recitation of prayer, be it the Regent's Prayer from Ingle versus Vitale, or if a school wanted to have the Lord's Prayer be recited, or for the school to have over the intercom an enforced moment of silence on a regular basis. Those things are not protected. That's assumed to be endorsing, promoting religion. If you are talking about a singular tragic event, let's say a student unfortunately dies in a fatal car accident, a school may use that as a time to reflect. But if you have a moment of silence as a normal part of the school day, that's under the assumption that's promoting faith, and that's not protected. Note that even though, with regards to student activities, as we've said before, students are allowed to engage in their own personal practice of their faith. So, for example, if you want to read the Bible walking between classes, if you want to have an informal Bible study with your lunch group at school, that's protected. If you want to have a T-shirt that has a quote from a Bible verse, that is all protected, because schools cannot take away your inherent right to practice your faith. If you want to have a silent prayer before class starts or whatever, you can engage in all those activities as long as it's not disruptive to the educational process. You also are able, groups of students are able to form religious groups that meet at school, as long as it is not during the scheduled school day when instruction would be taking place, and note that it would have to be student-led, not teacher-led. Keep in mind that if a school building is opening up the use of its facilities to the public, like say the Boy Scouts, in fact, government buildings like schools cannot deny a group access to the use of the building because of religious affiliation. So that is protected. However, though, if you do have a school event such as a graduation ceremony, a student, giving a speech is not protected in leading the event in the recitation of a prayer or something along those lines. The argument being is that at a ceremony such as a graduation or like an NHS induction or something along those lines, that anything that is communicated on the microphone, if you will, that is with the blessing and the endorsement of the school. And so if you have students that are using that platform, if you will, which is really the school's platform, to promote or endorse religion, then that is not going to be protected. Outside of schools, if you're talking about religious symbols in public facilities, the court has drawn some very interesting lines in terms of boundaries, in terms of what is protected and what is not protected. For example, if you are talking about using a religious symbol as part of a non-religious context, and it's not located in a place where people would be compelled to view it, that is protected. So like for example, if you are talking about outside of a courtroom, like let's say it's on the exterior of a court building, and you decide that you want to show symbols of the evolution of law in human history, if you want to have the Ten Commandments alongside, which is it's religious, but if you want to have that alongside other examples of the codification of law, such as Hammurabi's Code and the Magna Carta and the U.S. Constitution and whatever, then that's protected, because the argument being is that the theme and the purpose of that display is to show the evolution of law, not to promote or endorse religion. Additionally, if you are having a public display of holiday imagery in a public park, the government cannot deny you the ability to promote your faith as long as it is alongside people being able to express their secular views. So in other words, you could have at a local park, you could have a giant menorah be displayed next to a giant Christmas tree that doesn't have any religious imagery associated with it. Note though that if you are talking about anything that might be being used in singularity, as you can see there, so for example, let's say that local leaders decide at a local park that they are going to use taxpayer dollars to put up a nativity scene during the holiday season, and that is what's going to be displayed. Well, that's not going to be protected, because that's the argument being is that if that local government is putting that nativity scene out there and just that nativity scene, then it's endorsing religion when it does that. So anyhow, be mindful of the boundaries that exist between the Establishment Clause, which stipulates that the government cannot be endorsing religion, versus the free exercise that we enjoy as individuals and groups to be able to practice our faith. So, all right, we'll leave it there for now. We'll see you next time.